Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Okay. Let's do this. Hello, everyone. A Muslim sci-fi writer wants to speak to humanity. And a human being has become interested to attempt to speak to the whole species. I want to see what that's like. All right, let's begin. Have you realized yet we are not just people? The effort of an individual to communicate to the whole species was in some sense the wish of the ancient men. And what this means is that our ancestors had a sense that there's going to be a lot of people on this planet, and there's going to come a moment where the individual can communicate to the whole species. Now, what's fascinating about this idea, and by the way, guys, I'm a visual thinker, but what I am really is a human being who has access to a cinematic experience of reality behind my eyes. You see, language is a certain speed, and imagery is a certain speed. I can totally see human beings back in the day wondering what method would be used to communicate to the whole species. And in 2024, that method is cyberspace. Honestly, one does not know how long they are here. Honestly, there are so many unknown, uncontrollable variables in reality. The human being is born and it enters a video game. For a secular audience that cannot for some weird reason, I don't understand it, but for some weird reason cannot acknowledge the notion of an original creator, higher power. For the secular and materialists, and for all those people trying to be people, your closest bet is to perceive life as a video game and to comprehend that this video game is a system. This existence is a system, okay? 32 years of like roaming this world, and this is my finding. In this video game, level 1, you are not actually, the mission of life is not to know that. Okay, let me turn this off. All right, guys. Yeah, let's go with silence in the back. If life is a video game, we're wondering what level 1 is. Level 1 is a physical existence. When we look at the human being born, it is focused on itself. It is trying to make sense of itself. I use the verb trying to make sense of itself, but in reality, I like it more how the old school writers kind of depicted it. That like you start off as a bewildered beast. Do you understand? That means all beings are not in full control of themselves. We don't even realize it because we take ourselves to be the body. But to be honest, your ability with the human body is practicing with it every day. Do you understand? So you are some power, some force, some energy, and you are practicing being human by being forced to be human, and you're being forced to be human because we are being forced to be human to exist as human. What that means is we have to survive. That means at some point you can have any sort of metaphysical sort of view, but if you want to exist and complete level 1, you have to go towards health. And for the future generations, this was a minefield I couldn't properly cross, but I'll say it for the future generations. Live simply. This simple life is closer to greatness. But when I say closer to the greatness of what moves reality, which is the system admin, I am speaking to you as if we are, imagine like a Discord server, there's an admin, there's moderators, and then there's members. So right now, in this human life, in this world, I am a member, you are a member, and I am communicating. We are saying the moderators are invisible, but we are saying they are here, potentially, right, for the secular audience. A human being on this earth suddenly realized we are not just people. And I don't know why, but when I give these talks, because I'm human, I find myself responsible for the future of everyone. And let me tell you why. Because it is the great service, it is the great act. We are an energetic presence, we are an opportunity at hand. We are an ability in this world. And yet, if we want to align with true power, we must realize what is lower, what is higher. And so really what man is left with, the situation the human being is that the lower and higher world is pretty much like vertical, horizontal. Horizontally, it's the world is true. Vertically, the world is just a transit zone. The world is an airport. I'm not kidding. You're like in an airport and you're like, man, have I been reincarnating a million times in this airport? It's like, okay, then you're doing something wrong in your flight. Ladies and gentlemen, there is powers beyond human understanding here, and I'm not talking about simulated powers. So let me give you an example. Most human beings, because they don't believe in God, they are afraid of simulated power. What do I mean by this? Simulated power is this concept has meaning for a human being that is looking at life and is considering that, wait a minute, the temporary nature of our existence is in itself a simulated design. Something arose, happened for some time, and then in some sense left. And so, what was the value, the meaning, the purpose? If you were, I call it ego vision, not like Assassin's Creed, the video game, but a different kind of ego vision. The ego vision that has the ability to look from the branch, imagine an eagle on a branch, and imagine an eagle that flies into the sky and sees all the forest at once, all the branches of knowledge at once. Oh, humanity, the power that is within you, it is not yours to use, even though the free will makes us feel we're gods in our own kingdom. You know, we're kings in our own castles, you know, but I'm telling you, when you realize it's never about 100% perfectionism and 100% imperfectionism, and really the human situation, it's a situation, it's a scenario. So as a Muslim, this is the existential scenario, and I have become truly Muslim. This is the, how can I tell you, this is the 2023, I was a different person, right? But the reason I became religious was because something became so significant that it was as if it was weird I had missed it from the beginning. And do you know, there was a time I thought I was speaking for myself, others, and all of this, even for the future generations. But I realized I'm not even giving a talk right now. I am a part of the great happening, the great movement. It's as if the system administrator is the original world, the moderators are simulated power, but the maxed out version, the members are no power simulated beings. But the human being is different than any other life form because its capability to acknowledge intelligence. And let me tell you, it's like intelligence is not about just somebody being able to calculate something. Intelligence is about noticing that if the world, like imagine Tarzan, like okay, let's go with Tarzan. Imagine Tarzan, right, like living in the forest with the gorillas, and he's just roaming the same island. He's been everywhere on that island, Tarzan, right? So at some point he would wake up and try to find something new, and it is the novelty of humanity that gives it a permission to not get enslaved by its past. When I say enslaved by its past, you see, you are not just one person to respond to, how do I say it? Okay, if you didn't have time and you were a busy person, I'd be like, yeah, you're a person. There's such a thing as an idea of a person. But if you actually zoomed in, you would see it is very difficult to separate geometry from any other geometry. I don't know how to explain to you, how to tell you this, but it's kind of like we think we're on Earth, but that's what we're calling it because the unknown freaked us out and it was easier to live in a simulation. Anyways, I'll go to where I feel like, I'm going to envision, if I was listening to this, what would I like to hear? I would like to hear that if we are not people, what are we? And to explain that, actually, all I can do is go forth. If we are not people, what are we? You are not an individual in a world. That's the slowed down snapshot photo version of it. You are a dynamism, and this dynamism is not even owned by itself. Technically, I've divided it into 3 levels. So there's 3 lives. There's 3 levels to this video game of Earth. Most human beings get to level 2, and they remain there. And beyond that, they don't know how to pilot. And so the notion of even being able to pilot yourself as a human being means to try to comprehend the nature of your free will. And when you go to comprehend who you are, you begin to realize the mysteries of reality. You begin to see that the world you have been living comfortably in, oblivious, when people talk about it, you say, yo man, no, don't go too deep. But guess what? We don't know where we are. It is deeper than anything we know. It is, in some sense, the realization that there is no such thing as normal. It is just masses of agreement. It is lines of code. O humanity, awaken to your true nature. You are beyond the worldly form. It is the might of the final hour. What does that mean? It doesn't mean the world is ending. It means that the world that man knew is ending. It is the demonstration, or I shouldn't say demonstration, I should say it like this. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. It means all forgiving. That means that is a power. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, all praise due to the Lord of the worlds. It means the system administrator is uncaused. It caused the world. It caused souls. It caused scenarios. And in this scenario, we open our eyes as what we think, what we're taught is human beings on Earth. But really, what's going on is that it is an administrative system, and it's so hilarious because there's many ways to try to paint life as a simulation, right? But I don't think anyone's ever painted life as a simulation in the sense that it has management. The world has management, but its management is in accordance to divine decree. You see, this is the strange thing. It's the idea of freedom is twisted. When we don't know who we are, for people to act free, it's kind of a twisted idea, right? You don't know, like the species is telling itself a story and we're like, all right, good enough, right? But it's not good enough when we have reached a point of intelligence as 8 billion human beings where we can feel the unborn future generations watching us. But it is not just them, it is also the original power. So when I say we're not just people, I'm saying from one angle, sure, 8 billion organisms on a rock in the middle of nowhere. They became conscious of themselves somehow, and then they freaked out, and then in freaking out had to divert because the world was too heavy to process in some sense, and they diverged, reflected, uh, um, they were pushed towards, I shouldn't say pushed, but in some sense, the fear of the unknown made man simulate himself as an individual subconsciously. There were two evolutions. Sorry, not evolutions. Two, two huge leaps in like two switches that were turned on in the evolutionary process. But I'm not talking about science because I'm a religious person. Okay, I'm pretty much telling you these 8 billion creatures on this rock had two sorts of awakenings to react to consciousness. One was a physical consciousness where they were like, yo, I'm a body. I can move and control the body. And if I like, and in some sense, like the way we're taught is people think they are the body. They don't realize you are the space prior to the body, aka soul, aka unknown Mysterian, commanded by the divine, only, only by God. So what I'm trying to say is that from one angle, sure, tell yourself whatever story you want. From another angle, it could be that just like every person's house has an owner, similarly, this world has an owner. But we refuse. Like, think about it. You go inside a company, you enter the administration of that system. Do you understand? You get administered by that system when you enter it. Is it too bizarre of an idea to think that we have opened our eyes within a system that already has administration, it already has moderation, and the members are just entering the server one by one? Does it have to be a National Geographic documentary to be fascinating, or can a can climbing a mountain of logic suffice? It's all, I laughed, when I realized everything is art. Everything. Your name is art. I could say whatever here and it will be art, because art is anything new being added to the system. We are behaving like objects, temporary objects that are a single subject, and that single subject is controlling all the other subjects. It doesn't make sense. There's another dimension they're not saying. The soul is you, but it is the you that has, like, if somebody's like, yo, when can I see my soul? I'd be like, yo, man, you see your soul when you have truly seen your body and mind, when you've seen that view, when you've walked and read all the museum writings of you of that. I'm trying to say that you're in a video game. The system admin is not inside the video game. There are moderators. The advice is don't go to the moderators directly, go to the system admin. No offense to the moderators, but that is the original code. If we begin to treat this life as a system, we will begin to understand what sort of elements we are in it. Ladies and gentlemen, the era of just being a person and having a family and getting old and dying is done. We have reached a new era of humanity. We have reached that moment where we cannot ignore how all the unborn human beings that will go on to live on this earth are watching us now. We are responsible, and I do not know. It is in the might. It is guided by the might of God's decree. But it is being said from one human being to all other human beings, and from one soul to all other souls in the presence of the Almighty, that the human species is capable. It has the potential to, in some sense, activate advancement. The issue has been so far that the intellectual capability is there, it's prepared. It's as if the armies of our technologies are ready. The armies of the hearts of man are not ready. And what this means is that we are waiting for the divine. It's a sort of symbiosis of mankind, of the created with the created, of the original with the simulated. The simulated is conscious of the original. The simulated has a connection to the original. The simulated is not equal to the original, but the simulated will return to the original. All that is simulated will return to the original. The original in all sorts of mythologies never goes anywhere, just like how space is needed for any form to take change. The human species has reached an equilibrium point where 8 billion human beings, anybody who can drive a vehicle, ride a bicycle, you are intelligent and capable enough to begin to understand that if you choose to walk the path of your higher self, you require to, in some sense, egolessly have faith in system administration, in the existential system administration. But in some sense, it's a different game. Level 1, the body understands that the mission is survival. Body understands that this mission will fail. There is death. This is the completion of level 1, let's say. Level 2, level of the mind. The level of the mind, just like the level of the body was made with objects, the level of the mind is made with subjects. Every human being on earth has to realize and become responsible, organize, manage, if they like to, or in some sense leave to faith, their inner realms. What that means is how you understand the world suggests the value of what you see. So we have to realize it's not just getting 8 billion human beings to be like, thumbs up, let's build an advanced civilization. It's like we have to get 8 billion human beings to understand the context of this concept of the advanced human. To, in some sense, truly. And I'm speaking as if I'm like, yo, 8 billion human beings, gather around. I'm going to whisper it. Let's build an advanced civilization in the sight of the Almighty. That means God is our commander. God is our leader, but we are not robots. That means our discernment is not just limited to our interpretation of language. It's like when you get to level 2, just like you realize something inevitable, that if the purpose of life for the body is survival but there's death, the mission fails. So for the mind, you come to the level of the mind. The level of the mind is not fear of death. Your mind doesn't have a fear of death. You know why? Because every night you go to sleep, you vanish and you return back to the saved checkpoint, the saved memory. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. Let me tell you. Let me organize my thoughts here. Okay. Firstly, we're not just people. Because the notion of a person is in some sense a noun, reality is a verb. In some sense we're changing quicker than the world, so we feel we're living in it, right? But in reality, it's a massive, gigantic process, and how it's being administered. If you choose to be a materialist, it's actually a non-intelligent approach, because you're saying the world, the context doesn't have intelligence. But if you consider a creator as a created being, you're in some sense considering that the ultimate intelligence is accessible, but it is not accessible by man. So in some sense, man has to align himself. What does man have to align himself? To realize that reality surpasses the limitations of what objects convince you of and what subjects convince you of. When I say level 2, I'm pretty much trying to explain to you that the mind of the human being has to engage infinity. It's not fear of death. It's not vanishing. The mind is very used to constantly changing itself. It's as if our body is slowly changing, so we think we're just the body throughout the day, but our mind is changing so much quicker than our body, because every moment we move and have a new direction, we have to, in some sense, reset the context. So the no the task of the human being becomes to comprehend the nature of objective reality, to comprehend the nature of subjective reality, and the nature of subjective reality is to understand language, and to truly understand language, and to truly realize really what is a faster way for intelligence to move is not through words, but it's through imagery. So you start thinking about life like a film. If you think about it, if I tell you, tell me the plot of your favorite film, you remember it. You can even remember the scenes. But if I tell you, tell me exactly verbatim a paragraph you read in a book, you're gonna be like, yo, man, right? So the mind is, we are, it seems way more natural to cinematically. It's too slow words. Like, I don't know how to tell you, right? I'm speaking it now, but I think in the future there's not going to be even a need to speak. But anyways, what I mean by that is of cyberspace collective, like let's say conscious connectivity. I don't, but again, I am a being who is saying I'm no longer like going on an ego trip anymore. I've realized that self worship is a trap. So I'm not worshiping myself. I'm not like, yo, man, I'm the best. Da 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 da. You know, that shit is fucking like, it's a trap. It's idol worship. It's legit like worshiping a statue, but it's a statue of yourself. Then there's other worship. So your attention can go to others when in this world, right? So that's wrong too. Right? You worship someone and you're like, yo, man, they let me down. It's like, obviously, why were you even depending on that? Do you know? So on some level, what I'm trying to tell you is like, the mind, the brain, what the mind is afraid of is, it is a sort of bizarre scenario of not knowing what to do, because there's infinite view ways to look at life, and which one is true. So the mind knows its limitation and is just playing. I think. I think every person deep down, they're subconsciously, it's figured everything out. All right? It's just the conscious personality. We think we're it, but really what it is our consciousness from the moment we wake up is like a spotlight, and the idea of ourself based on how we move in the space-time continuum, we call it, it leads to our personality. But in reality, level three is the realization that it's self worship, other worship, and world worship. Even none of these work, right? So you can't even worship an advanced civilization. You got to worship the original power source that powers the advanced civilization. That's the only way. It's like a sort of like an L-shaped, like a chess knight move, right? Where in some sense it's as if the only way to unite God with advanced technology is to realize that original power of the world is God. Okay? So spirituality, or for people who are still worshiping themselves, religion is for those people who are like, okay, what if I was never the main event? What if this world is so much more fascinating than my individual fragmented, assumptions? Do you see what I'm saying? I'm saying it's the realization. I created a term for it: higher intelligent, excuse me, intelligent interaction levels. So that means from the moment you wake up throughout the day, what sort of intelligence, if intelligence was a sort of power, are you engaging with? And I'm not talking about individuals and all those people in spirituality working with moderators. I'm not like, I'm talking about those people who are going directly to the original power. So it's like, what do you want? Simulated power, or you want original power? I think, someone who has original, let's say someone who is going towards original power, somebody says, no, man, come and get simulated power. The person's going to be like, some Italian guy from Queens, like, get the fuck out of here. I'm trying to tell you that we're not just people. We are not even here designed to know ourselves or explore the edge of the world. We are here to notice, to just see. It's like a high IQ test for the whole species, to see if they notice that there's something more than the physical administering how moments happen. Why does the concept of luck and unluck, bad luck exist? Good luck and bad luck. Why? From one angle, there's karma, good luck, bad luck, past lives, all that, you know, mumbo jumbo that it's not mumbo jumbo, but it's like lower self truths. For me, I realize while I'm alive, if there is an original power, right? And it wasn't honestly an if. I was stuck in a process of self worship, and then I just realized I can't control the unknown variables. So it's up to the higher power. Like the higher power, my relationship is not with like I have a cell phone and I call God. It's not like that. God is almighty. It is a presence that surpasses my fathoming. Do you understand? That means all I can do is in some sense bow. And it's beautiful. I have never felt such peace compared to moments where I pray. I feel like my soul for a moment forgets everything in the world and just notices just bows to the original power, the original world, the creator beyond the form of the world. So I'm saying, species, stop worshiping forms, stop freaking out, try to notice from the clues of reality that there is an administrative system going on, and humanity may have to deal with, let's say, visible or invisible moderators, but in reality, we are all, everything in the world of form is ultimately, in the finale, returning to the uncaused. So when you realize God is the uncaused administering causality, your attention to the uncaused is the how you open the door of this simulation. There's more to this. I hope the viewers ask questions in the comment section and like actually try to, you know, follow up these. But in reality, you got to go directly to the original power. And it's as simple as just sincerely one day waking up and being like, okay, so Mr. Within is pretty much saying if I go to Starbucks, there's a management there, some management of the store. So okay, I'm in a world. So let's say there's an original, like the owner of reality, beyond the manager. Like you don't want to go talk to the employees, you don't want to go talk to the management. You want to go directly to the original power, right? When you have that relationship, reality is, it's still happening as you, and you do have free will, but it's happening with a different energy because the inner realms is not trying to live ahead of itself anymore. It has faith. That faith is a freedom of trust in the higher power. And I have this, the joy I get from getting surprised by the miracles of God, like the amazing genius, right? Like there's some people thinking about good and evil. I'm sometimes thinking about what's the most genius way something can happen. Like that's just a fascinating, I just bask in that like sunlight. Snowman in sunlight, like yeah, you know, like the depth of it. Anyways, let me it feels like I'm still in part one of this lecture, but I also feel I've reached a good point to end of this lecture. So I'm gonna just say the final thing. There is something more. Don't freak out, but it's like not like a vertical, like a horizontal expectation. It's a vertical surprise. It's a sudden realization that the artist is not the artwork, but the artwork through the power of the artist is noticing the artist. The relationship of a created being with a being that is beyond creation is way more fascinating than like you do high fiving in like advanced extraterrestrial from Andromeda. Like that's cool, but this is divine. This divinity surpasses it's as if man, the whole species, like to a secular audience, the system administrator is acting. There is this transcendental agency in this existential system that we are being experiential players in. Report your findings to, let's call it Station 1, Mr. Within's gift. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening. I'm gonna be on the Discord for a little bit. Honestly, guys, actually, um, I'm just gonna say this. Thank you for listening. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. There's something beyond us taking place here. And we, because we are the most conscious life form on this planet, owe it to all the other life forms on this planet. We're just responsible to, if there is a higher power or transcendental agency, to interact. Now, my relationship for this came from seeing the limitations of level 1 and level 2. And once you realize level 1 and level 2, the life of the mind and body is limited, that's when the idea of submission of the ego suddenly isn't strange. It's as if what is more than the idea that is convinced what I'm seeing is just this. And at first I was like, yo, at humanity advance. I felt like a general in a battlefield, but now I don't feel like that. Now I feel like I am simple member in the system, and the system admin is moving it, and now I can at least appreciate what was a mystery for me this whole time. What that in some sense what I thought was like, yo man, there's some specific, like, reason, behind why this happens. And then it was like as if, nah man, whose reason, whose perception, my DNA, whose DNA is being chosen as accurate. So in some sense I realized it's the situation of consciousness is to be like, whoa, it's not just about reacting to the information age by becoming just a machine, but to also realize that if there is a higher power, it would be equivalent to us being like employees, the moderators like angels being like the managers, okay, and let's say God being this the owner of the business, right? In some sense, the CEO, or I mean not the CEO, but let's say, I mean usually businesses have board of directors, but anyways, um, and the owner's not even in the business. The owner's relaxing somewhere, right? So what I'm trying to say is that if we think of that structure, we begin to realize it's not about the opinion of one human being. It is about realizing there is the highest intelligent interaction level for a created being is to connect to the creator directly. So the game plan changed from don't run towards an advanced future. First, run to the original power because you're in a simulated world. And once you acknowledge the original power and align to the original power, and then you can simply and sincerely and honestly walk in this world, actually, peacefully, right? So once you align to the original power, then we have built the advanced civilization, but we build it in the sight of the might, the level of that might of the creator. Do you understand? It's like an artwork, realizing such how incredible of an artwork it is, and then being fascinated with how beyond the artwork the artist is. So, anyways, thank you for listening, and Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. We came from non-cost, everything, and everything returns to non-cost. And it's brilliant because it's as if there was nothing wrong. So you see, when in Islam, for a Muslim, it said God is all forgiving. Sometimes I thought, could God forgive hell? Could reality be reorchestrated in accordance to the greatest outcome? Only when the greatest outcome is worthy to be realized. And that is why divine decree. That means by being a religious person, I'm saying it's not just me anymore. The survival and individualization, which was a sort of self-worship, self-idol worship, right? When that stopped, the simplicity and the faith in, like, all right, I didn't create this world. The creator created this world. The creator is administering the system. And all I can do is sincerely acknowledge and be present here. Thank you. Good night. And go directly to the system admin. Bless you guys.